We are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is PCar Talk. Welcome to an episode of PCar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're back from Amelia.
Yeah, we are.
I'm exhausted because I've been 2 weeks in a row, but good exhausted. I'm thankful to be back. I'm going to probably do a whole lot of nothing this week, and then...
Yeah, he seems tired.
The weekend it shows up, I'm going to do nothing then, probably go on the boat, get some sunburn.
Nice. Oh, that's not possible
catch
for you, right?
Major buzz. But anyways, want to thank JRZ. Suspension is here.
Yeah,
anybody that I spoke to in person knows that it wasn't in the car, so this is the update. It made it here on time, not JRZ's fault. Installer couldn't get it done because they had a mechanical failure with some of their equipment that day, so I was leaving the next morning, so we scheduled to do it. This will be tomorrow when you listen to this because it's Thursday, so it'll go in there, so you'll get an update the following week on some thoughts that I have on it as far as the straight road is. There's not that many twisties down by us, but I'm sure the car will feel different as a whole. But we want to thank JRZ for their sponsorship and also their steadfastness to try to get the stuff here in time.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
We appreciate that. They overnighted a lot of stuff here. And I was ready to go. They were ready to go. And the third part of the party was not ready to go. So things happen. Yeah, things happen. But we'll get it in there, right? It would have just been nice to show it off that weekend. But
probably be a YouTube video on it.
Yeah, so that'll probably be coming. That'll be part of our duties to our sponsor as well. So look for that in the future. We'll definitely let you know when that's out. So we'll videotape some of that install. It's some shiny, good stuff. I haven't opened it up yet, so I don't want to waste it. But
what do you think the mileage is on your current suspension? Do you have any idea? No. I don't know if you know.
Mystery. Fishing in the dark. Fishing in the dark. I have no idea. Want to thank everyone that is a PCar Club member. It is official that we are full.
We have people on the list too.
Yeah, we are almost full for foreign. So the waiting list is growing. Aaron, why don't you give them the spiel on the waiting list, and then I want you to roll into the Patreon thing that you did develop, and let them know about the whole Sriracha Boys thing, that there's a club within a club that we're doing. So it's a little inside stuff, but I don't want to steal your thunder, so I'll let you talk about all that. Go ahead.
Cool. All right, so as far as the foreign, there's still a couple spots left, and literally like a couple spots left. And then for the club, we're all filled up, like you said. That the automatic waiting list is building. I'm seeing it, so I know it's happening.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that. Thanks for everybody that reached out to us at Amelia, like just walking up.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So what we did, and
those are coming. That's after. That's a topic after.
Yeah, it is a topic. So something that we decided to do, we kind of talked about it. We want to keep the club small, and we want to keep the drive manageable. So that's happening. So the other thing was, well, what if people still wanted to support? And we kind of had this in the beginning as far as a donate.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw a little bit of traction, but not much. Now we built it out into...
And there's value for them too, right? You built value into it, right? Before it was just kind of just give money just to support us, but now it's an interesting value. So
now we have the Patreon set up, and you can get to it through PCar Club drop down. Actually, no, take that back. I actually made it its own thing. So it's support us. You'll see it on the main page, PCarTalk.com. You'll see it in the top navigation things next to PCar Club. So you can click on that, brings you to the Patreon. In the Patreon, we got 3 tiers. We got the PCar Talk supporter. I believe that's what I named it. And that's just like $5, just general. You don't need anything.
Thanks for the show.
Us. Thanks for the show. That
giving you love type of deal. I don't want to be part of it, but like
under the radar, anonymous, whatever.
Yeah, cool.
So then we got second tier, and that's what we're calling the PCar Talk producer. So what that means is you're financially supporting us. We're going to give you a decal for it and give you a shout out on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So just like if you join the club and get a shout out, same thing, just no club.
And this is a monthly thing that they're doing, right? So each month that they support, does that supporter get a shout out every month as well?
We should do that. Sure.
Okay. I'm asking you because I'm curious. I don't know, and I'm sure people listening want to know how that works. Is that a one-time shout-out? Is that a monthly shout-out?
We'll make it a list. Well, everybody that's joined for the whole thing.
I'm down for a monthly shout-out.
Yep.
Because if they're giving money a month, they should get a shout-out every month.
Yep. Let's do it. Decision made. Now you know.
All right.
And then, so our third tier is what we're calling, like, it's the Sriracha Boys.
Okay.
So it's another club within our club, I guess, essentially. And it is a loyalty thing. So what we've done is, once you're a part of it for 3 months, you get a Sriracha Boy sticker. And these stickers, they don't exist anywhere. You can't buy them.
Yeah.
This design was something that
I think Aaron and I
with,
and like maybe one other person has them, and that's it.
And then something we don't have is the other things that are coming along. So 6 months, you get a poster. Then 9 months, you get I can't remember if it's the hoodie. Okay, anyways, there's a hoodie, a poster, a sticker, or a decal, and a can't think what the fourth thing is, but there's 4 things within the month, and it's 3, 6, 9, 12.
Okay.
So throughout the year, you'll get those 4 things.
So
and the shout out.
And as each month goes on, they're building towards to get that item, correct? So they need to stay consecutive. They can't just like jump in and jump out. That's like you said, the loyalty part of it, right? And
some things that we have talked about, but we haven't firmed up the extras. We might do, I mean, there's Discord stuff that we can add in. There's also, we can do a podcast or clip or whatever we want to do, conversation type thing that's locked down that nobody else can see but you guys that are Patreon subscribers. So we can set all that up. But as far as that, it's just all the giveaways or all the swag stuff that we set up for the loyalty program for the Sriracha Boys. What else comes, you guys will see.
And I think you and I discussed offline that you have to build this in, because obviously we're still going to be 12 months from this anyway, so it's not that big of a deal right now. But the consecutive thing on the Sriracha Boys thing, I think Aaron and I, the big kicker on this, because I know there's going to be people who want to go on the drive. That's going to be your other way to go on the drive. So after 12 months, you become eligible for the following year's drive to get an invite into the club, even though you're not a PCar Club member, because it's full and there's a waiting list. So this is our other way to get other people eligible that aren't in the club, because there's some people in the club that are very stagnant, that have no interest in that drive, but they want to help us, and that's fine too. But there's also people that are we're already being asked about the drive, but the membership's already full. So this is an opportunity for you to still maybe get a chance at the drive, but you have to be in that Patreon for 1 year consecutive before you're even eligible to get that invite, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll like throw that in there. It's easy.
Okay. I just want, I know you and I talked about that at Amelia. I just didn't, I want the listeners to hear that. So they're like, well, I'm just sitting on this infinite waiting list waiting to go on this drive. And maybe, you know, we don't sell out this drive this year. Maybe we only have 25 people. Like, we're never really going to open it up to the public, essentially, and just take whoever. So I think this is another way, a layer for somebody who's loyal to what our cause is and our support, and give them a bone to get into that drive, right? Yep. So I think that's kind of this segue. And that's just this year. I mean, next year we may be filled with all the members. Who knows? Everybody may come, but they're still going to get an opportunity, because we do have lazy members who wait to the very last minute to sign up for things. And if you have an invite, once we open the doors to sign up for the following year's drive, it's first come, first serve. And we hold it all the way open this year until what? July 1st, right? Yep. And then we're going to shut it down. Whatever we have is what we have, and we're going to roll with. So I think we're at 24, 25-ish cars right now. So, and you can bring a +1 if you want, all that other good stuff that we've talked on other shows.
And the real reason that we try to start so early is just because everything gets booked up. That's the biggest thing. It's not because we're trying to get your money early. It's because we want you to have a chance at staying where we're staying at. And because it helps.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I know there's a lot of people that are like, man, I can't commit that far out. But you have to look at it this way. We set it up like just piggybacking on what Aaron said, because we're scheduling it during an Oktoberfest in this part of town, and there's another, essentially there's another event going on. If we wait till the last minute, none of us are going to be able to stay there, including us. So we have to book out this far in advance, and we're booking as soon as we can book in, because we're building a whole driving experience in addition to also some nightlife experience too, right? Like to have some fun with either your significant other or the camaraderie that's there. So it's kind of a dual threat. And because of that, we do have to try to get as many people to book as possible, as far out as possible, to secure that stuff. So if you're one of those late people, like, just be mindful too that you might not be able to stay at that hotel if you wait all the way up to July to sign up, because you can't commit. Understandable, due to schedules, whatever, but just be mindful of that. You may not be staying where the core people are staying. So it's not the end of the world. We have people that go rent cabins together, like 4 or 5 guys off campus, all that other stuff. They do their own thing, so it's okay too. But But thank you for covering all that, because I wanted everyone to hear it from you, since you developed it, and
We'll start doing,
you know,
like,
the inner workings of it.
There's posts and community and stuff built like that. I mean, we've already had the Discord built out, so this just lends itself to that. And we've always wanted to kind of have it on, like I wouldn't say another podcast, but something premium we could lock down.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that turns out. We haven't committed to that yet.
I think what we'll do is we do the same thing with the membership. I think once we get some Patreon people that are in that area, that are kind of living in that space, you'll have their emails, and you guys will dictate what happens there. We like being very democratic about everything that we do, so we want to hear from you. If you're interested in doing that, we will do that for you. If you don't give a damn, then we won't do that for you, because there's no sense in us putting in the extra time for something that you're not going to listen to, or enjoy. So we'll get your feedback, and that's a great thing about our membership. We engage with you guys. It's not just like, hey, this is what it is, whether you like it or not. So we do things that you want to have done, or we won't do things that you don't want to have done. So that's what we're here for. But thanks for covering that. I want to thank everyone at Amelia Island, all the volunteers, first of all. I think there was over 600 of them.
There had to be, because there was so many people.
Yeah, there was tons and tons of blue shirts running around, taking their own time. They don't get paid to make that event go on. So a big round of applause to them. Thank you guys so much for making an awesome event happen for all of us that are actually attending. They're basically the unsung heroes of this event, because they're the ones parking cars, they're one directing people, giving people information, moving stuff around, stuff everybody just takes for granted.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. So big shout out to those guys. Big shout out to Chris Brewer.
Yeah,
always hooking us up with our media passes. Got some FaceTime with him. Solid gentleman. Representing Amelia Island Concours. We really appreciate everything they do for us, and they take care of us. Shout out to Dr. Bill, as far as, inviting us to the hangar party. It was great to pop in, say hello for a little bit. As Aaron stated earlier, everyone that came up to us and talked with us at Amelia Island, saying that they listened to the show, thank you guys so much. That's fuel for us. It's a good attaboy for us, and we appreciate that. That adds fuel and morale to the fire. We appreciate having conversations with every single one of you guys. And great seeing everybody there. I really appreciate, when we do get to spend time with some of the people who listen to the show and actually care about what we're doing, and care about the community and Porsche and all that kind of stuff. So it's refreshing sometimes when you go to these things and you get to have those conversations with people. So
I remember I parked in the corral and Mike parked in the judging.
Yeah.
And it was like 25 minutes later, because we parked about the same time. Mike was like, "Where you at?" And I was like, I was talking to people as I got out of my car. So
yeah, the guy who doesn't speak is actually talking to people.
It's crazy.
Even the guy who doesn't talk said something.
Yeah.
Quote from Anchorman.
Yeah.
Dorothy Mantu is a saint.
That movie's great.
No, but the beard actually talked to people.
I did.
See, you corner him and he doesn't have a choice. He actually has to speak. Man,
so.
He's like, "Where's Mike at? Say something." He's like, Mike's not here.
Yeah.
Dad, I'm by myself. Dad.
Need an adult.
No, good. I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad they're chatting with you. I'm glad you were representing. I feel like a lot of times that I try to be the voice for both of us. But yeah, I know you do. As crazy as it sounds, I know I lead on this thing, and a lot of people try to get the impression that I try to like talk all over you, but you know me well, like off camera, like I say very little if I can.
That's true.
I'm just like, I don't want to talk about this shit, man.
Yep. He doesn't like to lead.
But yeah, no, thank you again to everybody who was there, and it was great seeing everyone, and it had that vibe, right? Like there was no masks there.
The normalcy is what it had.
That's and I think this is it was a really positive event for more ways than one. Not even from a car aspect, but I think from a social aspect, because everyone was there, really had a good time, and I think this is going to be the standard now moving forward, at least for car events. I think whether or not it's said or not, we probably know enough. There was probably a lot of eyes watching this from a digital aspect and seeing how this operated and see if it went off without a hitch, to see if they're going to have their own events happen maybe later this year. And I think because this went so well, I think all of us from car enthusiasts are going to benefit from this moving forward, because I think a lot of these people that were maybe on the fence of having an event maybe are going to have them now.
Yep. I mean, the only difference for us this year versus other years was the Ritz and the Omnis, the bars and stuff were just for the guest only, which is different.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So that's totally separate. The Concours has nothing to do with that. The Ritz Hotel and the Omni Hotel, operating on their own standards within their own corporate standards, decided to have only allowing guests eat at their bar and hang out in their restaurants and things like that. Again, that's a corporate standard. They missed out on a lot of business because a lot of people come in there for foot traffic, have a cocktail. We're part of that crew that we go in there and we have lunch or a cocktail, and we like, you know, hanging out at those places. So I know it wasn't them just personal. Those are big companies. And as anybody may or may not know, once a company corporate standard comes out, it doesn't matter what state you're in. You could be in Canada, you could be in Florida. It's a blanket standard, basically. So if they're doing that, they're doing it everywhere. So it's just kind of a circumstance. It wasn't because there was an event there. I think it was just how their corporate policy is still continuing to operate at the moment. But we did still get to go in the Ritz and hang out. And why that's important is a lot of stuff. Base camp happens at the Ritz if you've never been to Amelia, because the showing field is right there. We pick up our media passes at the Ritz. We had to pick them up outside. Normally we pick them up inside. So yeah, that was kind of a little bit of a roadblock. It wasn't horrible, but
they still had the Sotheby's preview. They still had both previews. I guess it's a continuous. Are they both Sotheby's? The outside.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the inside when they keep the nicer cars.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was good to see some of that stuff. A lot of it stuff operated as usual. It was basically minus the social aspect, because at night, that's kind of the night watering hole.
It is.
Because everybody on the island is pretty much a mile or two away from the Ritz, unless you're staying at the Ritz. And we were in that boat. We could have walked to the Ritz from where we were. And it's just a nice conversation place, because everybody that you run into is kind of at that, happens to go through there at some point. And whether you have their personal information or not, you know, a lot of times you end up having a cocktail and you're like, oh man, I didn't know you were here. And then you have a conversation, you know, oh man, I didn't know you were here. And you have a conversation. So that kind of was a little bit missed.
We did, however, find smoked old fashions in downtown.
No, I
would refill the place, but I don't want to because I don't want it busy.
No, there's no need to talk about that. Anyways, I mean, so let's talk about a little bit of Amelia, what we saw, what we liked, and then we'll take a quick break. So some of the stuff, clearly, if you weren't paying attention, we give you the Cliff Notes version of what happened. Pretty much the largest gathering of 935s in any location at any point for a very, very long time. I would say, if anything rivaled this anytime close, maybe Rensport. Maybe. That was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I guess so.
I wasn't even counting them, but I'm just saying in general, if there were anything close, it would have been that. There was a ton of them here. And even the ones on the show field weren't all of them there either, because there was some just kind of...
Apple livery was missing.
Kind of like lurking around. Even like some showed up and weren't like invited to the party, is what I'm saying. But of those 935s, what else did you see that you liked? I mean, obviously you like the Porsche stuff, but what are some of your summer highlights? I mean, we are Porsche, but we're car people. Let's be real. I mean, we saw tons of variety there.
I'd still say for me, it just sticks in my mind, and because green is not my typical color, but I think the McLaren F1 and that whatever. I don't know which color green it was, but it was green.
It was close to oak, right?
Yeah, I guess it would be a oak or is leaf, right?
Leaf's a little too light.
Too light.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was closer to oak.
And then like a caramel interior. I really haven't. I don't think I've seen that combo. It's probably a 1-of-1. But I really liked seeing that. And it was cool seeing all the other hybrid cars from the air. That was probably the biggest highlight. I don't think I've seen that before. Yeah. The only thing missing was a GT1.
Yeah. Which is kind of shocking that they weren't able to bag one of those, because they usually have such a strong Porsche showing. However, like Aaron said, there were some amazing era 80s and 90s era hypercars there that you're never really going to see ever. And not only were they displayed, some of them were running. We left before they were running as far as to go fetch their awards, because when you win an award there, you have to drive the car up and go get them. So the CLK GTR car won an award, and the people that were there, that must have been a treat to see that thing fire up and then head up there, because that one has tartan interior. I think of the ones that were made, that one I think is number 3, meaning like chassis number 3. I think chassis number 3 and chassis number 9, I want to say, are the only ones that came with that tartan interior from the factory. So that was one of the 2 that ever came. The other ones, the rest are just black, but that one actually has the tartan interior. I thought that was a really interesting touch, and that was not aftermarket. It came that way.
Surprised they let it happen twice.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, those cars went to special people. I think one of the most interesting things for me to see was the car entirely blown out, because we happened to be there while the car was being judged. The whole front clip was off. The whole back clip was off. It was pretty wild looking, because, and it wasn't even that they were just laying there in the grass, because there's nowhere else to put that stuff. But the judges wanted to see all of that stuff, so I thought that was pretty rad to see that too. That's probably a once in a lifetime thing, that you're going to see that entire car blown apart like that.
I think a lot of people are skipping over it, but that I don't know what the street version of it's called. It may just be an XJ220, but that Jag, that yellow Jag, and there's one that's in yellow, and I don't know that I've ever seen one in yellow for the street car.
I agree. I don't think I've ever seen that one either.
For the CLK GTR,
it was a pretty strong row, so that's probably why.
But then next to that is that McLaren F1, and next to that is that the F50, and next to that is the F40, and next to that is...
Well, it's not just the F50. It's the 001 VIN F50 that Curated is basically bringing around from We Are Curated, and we hung out with those guys, John and Vinny. And we're going to plan the podcast with John when we go down to Miami at We Are Curated. Great guy. Had some phenomenal cars. Him and his team put in some phenomenal work on that F50 that they have. If you haven't seen that car or looked it up, go check it out. They talk about it in depth on their YouTube channel. It's worth a watch. Regardless if you're, not a Ferrari fan, it is just an interesting story, a car story. So yeah, VIN number 001 F50. And it's got its own little like nuances. I won't ruin the whole thing for you, but yeah, watch that. And they brought an F40 as well, and then they brought the Monaco Countach with the police lights on it. So it's actually, if you didn't know, this car was the pace car for the Monaco Grand Prix in the 80s, and it's white and it has police lights on it, and it actually came that way. And the story behind that car is the CEO of Lamborghini at the time actually marshaled that race in that car during like stuff. So John went into depths of when they broke apart that motor to like do a rebuild. He said the car has like a hot cam in it. It's got different headers, all that stuff from the factory that they didn't do to Countach's. But since this car was going to be a pace car at that race, I guess the CEO wanted it hopped up. So it had different cam, different pistons, all this kind of stuff. So that car produced a lot more power than the standard Countach's. But it was unbeknownst to anyone. It's not like something they announced until they got into the motor and they actually saw it. So I think that's an interesting story within itself. And not only the exotics, they had a lot of cool vintage cars that we saw, muscle car era cars that we saw, like vintage race cars from that era that did their own thing there. They always have a great variety of cool stuff there.
The original Back to the Future car.
That was really cool. Owned by Haggerty. Big shout out to Will Cheeks, good friend of ours from Haggerty. We're going to get him on the show. He's a Porsche guy. I've spent a couple rallies with him. We got to spend some quality time with him. I don't know if you guys seen my post, but what I posted was basically we got to spend a lot of quality time with a lot of people. Instead of just doing 5-minute conversations with an elevator talk with a bunch of people, we actually got to spend hours with people, which was different for us. And I think we didn't go into it with that game plan. It just kind of worked out that way, and actually worked out for the better. It kind of let us deepen relationships with a lot of folks, and we appreciate that. So
more to come for sure.
Yeah, we appreciate their time too, that we get to spend with them. So I really enjoyed that. So overall, obviously Amelia is always a home run for us. It's in our backyard essentially. It's a 3.5-hour drive for us. We'd be foolish not to go to that thing. Because it happens once a year, and they make a big effort to put it on. So if you're in a radius, you should be making an effort to go to that thing as well, because
it's eclectic and great.
And I know there's concourses that kind of happen all over the U.S., but I mean, I don't know if they appreciate this, but I think it's a mini Monterey in a sense.
That's the way I count them.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if they if that's negative talk for them
yeah,
or if that's positive talk.
Yeah.
But to be fair, obviously Monterey's been going on for a long time, so I want to say this has kind of been going on since the 90s. So to be second to that, I don't think is really a bad thing.
Yeah.
But again, going back to that, it's all variety. That's the nice part there. It's like if you're one of those people that are into Duesenbergs, I don't know why you're listening to the show, but if you are, they have a little bit of that stuff there too. But they have everything from sports car stuff, race car stuff, vintage stuff.
Almost everything has a story. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and I think they do a very, very good job of curating the event to make sure that happens, as opposed to just letting anything come in, essentially. And it's reflected when you walk around. You can definitely tell that everything is managed properly and everything was thought out as far as what's accepted to be there. So kudos to them and their staff for making that happen. I enjoyed it. I know you did, and I think everybody I spoke to enjoyed the event as well. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with some Porsche news, some Porsche racing stuff, and then rumors, but kind of solidified rumors, I guess.
Ooh, I know what he's going to talk about. I'm ready.
All right. Thank you guys listening to PCar Talk so much. We appreciate you guys so much. I can't say that enough. Everything we're doing is trying to bring the community closer together. We definitely appreciate that. Also, when you go onto YouTube, if you could subscribe, maybe pass it along, make a comment, we really appreciate that. Now back to the show. All right, we're back from break. So Porsche is celebrating Fashion Week with designer ALD. They restored a 911 SC for Fashion Week. Comes with some unique stuff. I would say I'm using unique because I'm not a fashion person. So,
okay.
And I don't think a ton of people listening are, but I don't want to judge. I don't know everybody who's listening, but I think it's interesting news to talk about. So some of the unique things in this, there's Persian floor mats in this thing. Which is interesting. So I'm looking in there and I'm like, oh, these look like rugs in my grandmother's house. But
and they
inside, yeah. And then they carry that theme into the door cards. And then there's a Recaro. Remember those wooden beaded seat cover things? They made a Recaro style one, and it says Recaro in it. And it's got these wooden beaded things in the driver's seat. Where they had them in the 80s, where to relieve pressure off your senses or whatever it is. Looks like a torture device, but I've never sat in one, but I'm sure some people will probably say they're comfortable.
Pinched, like you pinch your back or something. But
no, I think there's big enough gaps, but I think it's just supposed to be, I don't know. It's a bunch of little pressure things instead of you just sitting flat. It's supposed to be better for circulation, I assume. Anyways, I think it's cool that Porsche is collaborating on so many different levels. And then obviously they're doing it timely. This is for Fashion Week, and this car is being displayed at Fashion Week, with props and things like that. Do you think, what are your thoughts on this, first of all, before I carry on? What are your thoughts on this particular collaboration? I don't want to macro you and say it with all other collaborations, but this particular one.
I think it's neat that they're choosing an air-cooled when they could have chosen something new. They could have done the Cayenne because that's the hotness.
Yeah. I think almost in a fashion sense, it has to be vintage, because fashion has a vintage vibe, I think, even though they have runway models for all the new stuff. But I think...
So do you think that they channeled that same thing? Because I don't remember what year the SC is, but do you think they channeled things from that SC's era?
I think they did.
And then kind of was like, okay, well, this is cool, but this would kind of be like a beaded bracelet, and this would kind of be like
I think so. I mean, of course, there's some thought process in that. I'm sure they probably let the fashion designer kind of take those cues, and they...
If the car was going to wear like a Persian jacket or something, they kind of... That's interesting.
Yeah. I think Porsche seems... The way they're going with their collaboration seems pretty limitless. Once you think that, okay, they can't do another collaboration, they fool you, and they do something like this. I think it's funny. I think we referenced it just in sidebar conversation, and kind of made me think about it when I wrote these show notes about collabing with other people and doing all that stuff, almost kind of like how people do it in the hip hop world or any of those kind of things, where the more you can collab with somebody, or the more you can get out there, right?
Yeah, because you don't know who you're
regardless
reaching.
of who the audience is. They're just trying to get in front of as many people. Not that Porsche needs to do that, but they're probably winning the collab hype board of the of the century, because literally we could just rattle off all the people they've like worked with on a collab for a car or a restoration or whatever. The list goes on and on and on. I'm not going to bore you with it, but you know, like Arsham, all these people that they've worked with. I think it's pretty rad that they're doing it. That's showing that they believe in pop culture as well, because they're not just standing alone and saying, hey, we're just going to do our own thing and we don't care about what the pop culture world or what the trends of the world is happening in. But they're showing at some level that they want to be involved in it. So I think that's pretty good for everybody, because if you have people within the company that are showing that kind of interest, that's showing that they're not narrow-minded, at least. So that's good. I mean, who knows who the next collab's going to be? PCar Talk? I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, and that's cool that they're showing their icon, the 911, out there doing this thing, being adaptable.
Yeah. And like, an air-cooled wasn't expensive enough, right? So now it's being shown at Fashion Week too, where maybe all these people have tons of money as well, and they're like, oh, think about buying one of those someday.
That's cute. Let me get one.
Exactly. And, I didn't think 911s were fashionable, but I do like that now. And price keeps going up and up, right?
Yep.
So Pikes Peak, June 27th is happening.
Yep.
That's when it normally happens, so that's back on schedule.
Cool.
Spectators are welcomed.
Nice.
So if you are in that area, or if you plan on make a destination call, go out there. We haven't been to that race yet. We definitely want to go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off this year. I might be able to. I have kind of a trip aligned with this, so we'll see if it works out. We spoke to Jeff Swart in length about this at Amelia, and just in general, not specifics, but I think this time around, and there's always lots of Porsches in this race, but I think he was saying this is the most Porsches ever going to be in the Pikes Peak Challenge this go around. He rattled off the number. Forgive me for not remembering. It was something in the excess of like 19 or some crazy number like that. In all different classes, not in the specific class that he's in, because they run in all different types of classes. I think that's immense. Very, very cool that many Porsches are going to be in there. Champion Porsche just revealed their GT2 RS Club Sport at the livery they're running. Just did some beauty shots up there. They're going to be competing with a car. It seems like there's a lot of Porsches getting involved in this race. And this race has been going on for 70-plus years. This isn't like a new race. Yeah. But my question to you is... I
think it's the 99th one.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say 100-plus years, but I didn't want to like...
I think so.
Like go ahead of that. But the point of the story is don't quote us and beat us up on it, whatever. It's been a long time, right?
Lots of time.
So they've been making cars for a long time.
Yep, from dirt
I mean, they've been
paved.
doing this race before Porsche was making cars. Let's put it that way. Where I was going with this is, why do you think there's such an interest? And to be clear, this isn't actually Porsche teams. These are all like privateers using Porsches to accept this challenge and try to win overall the King of the Mountain, or actually their class, or whatever it ends up being. Why do you think there's so many privateer teams using that vehicle or any of that stuff when they could pick so many other platforms to use? Why do you think that they're using this?
I think finally Jeff Swart's branding, from him driving and winning so much, and then just continuing to use that brand, and then adding on all the BBI stuff.
I could see that.
What they're starting to do, it's kind of like hit home that maybe if I want to do well in this, these cars seem to be handling it and proving themselves with good times, if not world records.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of it from that.
Time,
because Jeff Swart's first win was in '94, and he's a multiple-time winner on that mountain, many times, and he's raced it ever since it was half gravel, half tarmac. Now it's good. For the first time this year, the entire thing's going to be all tarmac.
So
it didn't always used to be that.
New records this year, then.
And that's what Jeff was saying as well. He's expecting even more quicker times because it's full tarmac now. Jeff himself will be back racing in the 935 Mobile One Pegasus with Road Scholars. He'll be in that car. And he ran really, really fast on his timed stint towards the end. And we talked a little bit about that. That was a record for him on his back side of that stint. So now he's going back again this year in that car. As long as he gets the weather to cooperate with him, he could have a full-on record from start to finish.
Sweet.
because as he indicates, he's also training 5 other Porsche guys that are racing basically to run up this mountain and try to get the best times they can. So it was kind of funny. He shared some inside baseball. He's telling them, you know, you got to be fire out the gate, like meaning like full throttle, right? And he didn't even take his own advice on his own run, and he thinks that kind of hurt him a little bit, even though he had a really quick back half of the run. So he said even him being the pro and being up there so many times and winning so many times, he has to remind himself that he needs to be that way too coming out the gate sometimes. So I think he will be this year, especially since it's fresh in his mind and we had that conversation, and it's clearly on his mind because he brought it up to us. Yeah, he did. So I'm sure he's going to rectify that situation. We're definitely going to be cheering for him. I think it's interesting, though. I was thinking about that while I was writing this, because there was a lot of cars last year from Porsche that were running in this, and there was a lot of cars the year before that from Porsche running this. But it seems like each passing year, the number seems to get larger and larger and larger. And
I think it's being an all Porsche event one day.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be that, but you know what I really think it is I think more people are actually participating in general. I don't even think it's just the same people they're saying like, okay, well now I'm going to use a Porsche and I was running in whatever fill the blank in was last year. What I think is that, and Jeff is in an indirectly way when he was telling us he's training new guys running up the mountain. There are new people coming out there running this mountain and getting more and more interested in this. And why I think that the reason is behind this is it goes behind what Larry Chan is doing, because he is the dedicated photographer, videographer for this event. And Larry's a good friend of ours. I think it's his social media presence helping boost this event some, and it's reaching other people that maybe have the funds and the skill set to attempt this race. Because if you have a license and you've trained in all these things and you've never done this before, this is a check the box type of race that you want to do well at and add this to your resume. Because I mean, it is an ego test. This is the Pikes Peak Challenge. It is. We know that there's tons of other hill climbs that exist, but this is the one. So I think it's more of that. I think there's a lot of social media presence around it now. There's a lot of YouTube video behind it. Before Larry and the social media and the Instagram and the YouTube and all the stuff that was getting filmed, I think it was maybe just snippets of people recording personal stuff, posting things in car from maybe the guys that the privateers that were in the event. But Larry's doing a good job of packaging the whole event together and showing you those beauty shots of these cars, showing you the highlights of these cars, showing you what these cars can do. And him partnering with BBI and all these other places and getting the in-car cam and then getting the mounted runs on there all the time, and then taking the time to edit all that and put it all together for people like us to watch that and anybody else to watch that isn't going to the event and actually understand it. Like, that ripple effect might be reaching other people is what I'm getting at. I think that is happening.
I agree with that. I mean, it's definitely the more and more social media gets involved in the event, because before that, I mean, I kind of knew about it and I knew what it was, but outside of that, I wasn't like, I need to go to this event. I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, but now the more I've seen it, the more I'm like, oh, okay, this thing's pretty crazy.
Exactly, right? And there's a lot of awesome cars that drive in this, and there's a lot of awesome race car drivers that participate in this too. And again, this happens on our soil. This isn't something you got to travel to Europe to go see. And not to mention, if you make a little bit of a trip and you kind of like the outdoors and you bring your significant other, you could probably trick her or him into going to this thing and watching some of it and doing some hiking while you're there and enjoying the whole thing and like seeing some national parks. So like if you're a crafty talker and you're swift, you could say, hey, maybe we should go to Colorado during this time and
some hiking and some outdoor
we
stuff.
happen to be there during Pikes Peak, babe. Maybe we should go watch the race for like a day and then continue on our journey out here, you know, while we're walking around. I'm just saying, that's a clever way to do it. That's the way I would spin it.
Feel free to use it.
Yeah. So you can be a hero and get to see racing at the same time. So
PCar Talk pro tip.
Yeah, right? Who's going to say no to that? Hey, if you need a wingman, I'll go with you. Give me a shout. I'll be there with you. But I'm excited for Jeff and everybody, and I'm excited to see the coverage if we don't make it. But that is a bucket list race for us. I think in the future, I think it scares me in a way to go to it because I know it's going to be even better in person. So I think I was just about to say that. I think this is going to be, I think this is just going to be one of those things. Once I go, I'm going to be like, I have to go to this every year. Kind of that's how I feel about Goodwood.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to go to this every year. So now I have to travel to England, which isn't a bad thing. I don't mean it in a bad way. But it, like you just said it, you hit the nail on the head. It's just another thing I have to add into the schedule of like, I have to go to this now. I have to go to this. It's like, oh, Luftkult, I have to go to that. Oh, Rennsport, I got to go to that. Oh, Amelia Island, I got to do that. Oh, Car Week, I got to do that. Before you know, your entire life is just consumed by this stuff. You're like, oh, wait, I'm on a rally this week. I'm on a rally next week. Then I'm at Amelia. Oh, and then I'm going to Pikes Peak. And then I'm going. I mean, I'm not saying it in a way I'm complaining. I enjoy all of it, but sometimes it becomes a scheduling fiasco.
It does. That it does.
And so if we're looking for interns for if you want to do scheduling and all that videography for us now, but in all seriousness, we actually do need somebody, but we won't make the pitch on here if we end up doing it. If we actually make an official thing where we take applications, we'll definitely let you guys know. But we are definitely traveling in that area where we could definitely use some help.
Moving in that direction for sure.
But anyways, that's Pikes Peak. So if you're in that area, you're West Coast, even if you're driving distance, whatever, you should probably make the pilgrimage, right? Support that event, support them, that what they're doing out there, and support all the guys that are racing. Cheer them on. So, rumors. We have a couple of them to go through. We'll go through this one first through Porsche. It's not really a rumor because they confirmed it, but it was a rumor because we talked about it before because we kind of joked around about this for a while and said, oh man, where's the GT market going? I can't believe that even consider doing like an SUV GT car. Well, guess what? It's coming. They're going to do a Porsche Cayenne Coupe GT. Specs aren't out. Everything's all speculation. But this is going to be coming out, and it's being developed by its GT department. So the same guys who make the GT3s, all that stuff, they're going to make a Porsche Cayenne GT. My theory behind this, before I get into the speculation side of it, is the reason why they're doing this is because the M5, X5 thing,
X5M,
whatever, competition exists and all that, and the X, whatever, all of those. So
AMGs and all that stuff.
Exactly. They figure those things exist. Why can't this exist in their mindset?
Well, the Urus and everything else.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that. I think the standard coupe is just going after that one, the Turbo S one. I think that's this is going to be a different animal. So from some of the stuff that I read was it's going to share some of the body lines. However, there's going to be weight saving involved, so they're going to take weight out of this thing. I don't know what that. And they didn't get into details. I don't know if that's just
carbon
a lot
buckets,
more. Yeah, a lot more composite material all around in the car. I don't know if that's going to change the monocoque. I don't know. They didn't even say. They just said weight savings. It could be as light as saying, "Oh, we're just changing the windshield wipers, and they're going to be saving 3 grams, whatever."
So I was going to say, so we've been seeing this in development for the last 3-4 years, because we've seen. I know that in the camouflage it looks the same because we thought this was what the Cayenne Coupe was going to be, with a almost centered exhaust and type thing, but then it ended up being a little different, like more like the Cayenne.
Yeah,
do you think it's just taking them longer to develop it?
I just think it's not a hot topic. The GT3, they were making that. That thing takes precedence. I think this is one of those like back office things. They're like, hey man, I'm done playing darts today. Let's go work on this thing. And it's like, all right, cool, whatever. And we go work on this thing. So I think it's not a pressing thing.
Yeah.
So back to that weight savings, they're saying even more horsepower. It's going to get bigger brakes. So they're going to go, and we know Andy and those guys don't screw around. So if it's going to have it's being worked on in the GT department, they're not going to allow it to come out and be shit. This is the point is. So the interesting thing about this is this going to be a consolation again for not getting one of the other cars? And this is now another GT car to be able to buy.
I think it's different. I think it's the ability for me to have a GT car across the line. I get my GT3 or RS. I get now my SUV matches performance
could be my daily, yeah.
And then but it also opens the door in my eyes for the Panamera to get a GT line of some sort. Because if they're going to rework a V8 or whatever they're putting in there.
But they've already kind of slated the Panamera to be a luxury liner. They've changed the name. It's not
That's true.
I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think that's going to be their executive class car.
They're going to come out with a 2-door.
Yeah, who knows? The point is, I didn't think this was going to happen. Do you think this is a good idea or bad idea? Your thoughts on this? Do you think this is do you think this is the beginning of the end of the GT department, like the way of the M department that BMW went with when they started making all those crazy M cars, and people are like, why the hell are they making an M?
I think it's a market test. I mean, they're selling everything else.
Of course, it's a market.
Something new would be.
Well, this is them taking advantage of the market. Is this what I'm getting at? Is this Porsche exploiting the GT buyers? Is this them exploiting them, saying, we know there's such a strong, and not just those buyers, anybody who's interested in a GT car. Is this now putting them in a position to say, okay, now we're making an SUV GT car, and I'm sure it's going to be limited because it'll dilute GT brands if they make as many as they want. So this will probably follow the same lines as a 992 GT3, maybe 2500 allocations. PTS is going to follow all of those lines.
I don't know that we know several people with GT cars, and I've never had the conversation, and I don't know if you have, saying, you know what, I wish my Cayenne was a GT car.
Yeah, that conversation hasn't happened, but I think it didn't happen because
it's not an option.
It's almost kind of just like a weird, not even just an option. Like it's just a weird conversation piece to bring up. Like, we're not what if people. We live in reality. You know, it's like, oh, what if, you know, I shot Jolly Ranchers out of my ass instead of poop or something. You know, it's like okay, well, how do we go about doing that? Let's make that happen. Like, we can change all your innards out and start making like candy in your stomach, and maybe you'll die, but hey, we could probably make it happen, right? Like, but anyways, I think it's one of those things where yes and no. I do think that they're crossing a boundary a little bit. If you really want to go back and think about this for a second, as far as what the GT department's supposed to be doing, right? They're supposed to be making the best of a sports car. And a sports car meaning 2 doors, 2 seats. I think they're really tap dancing on a line here where
you're afraid it's going to be a GT option now all of a sudden versus
I think it's a slippery slope, like we talked about it before. Like, I don't think they'll let it go there, but I think this is one of those, like, all right, man.
But I think I agree with you, because why would you have a GTS in the lineup if you're going to make? Because that's almost that, like we always say, that's that sweet spot where it's still sporty. You're still getting extra bits for it.
And just because they said they're going to make this, and again, I don't want to throw them under the bus for this. There are a lot of things that they do a lot of R&D on. They make a lot of development for, and it comes pretty close to being done, and then they scratch it. It happens all the time. There's tons of stuff that we've never seen that are buried in the Porsche vault that comes out every once in a while and you get to see, and you're like, man, I had no idea that happened. This could be one of those things. I had no idea that happened. But as of right now, it sounds like they're pushing forward on this. Maybe cooler heads will prevail and they'll say, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Or maybe they'll say, actually, this is pretty rad. Screw it. Send it, and let's see what happens. Maybe they don't think it'll dilute their brand, but maybe I'm being too judgy when it comes to that. But I don't know. I think they have such a mystique, and I think this will probably put a little bit of chink in the armor. I think it's almost kind of like that hot girl who's always like sleeps with 10s, and she's a 10, and then like one night you see her and then she's with a 5, and you're like, what are you doing with that dude? And she's like, I am super drunk tonight. I don't even know what any of you look like. And you know, where I'm going, there's a point to this. That 10 that you always saw walking around, whether you work, whether you see her around, now she's not so much of a 10. You're like, well, she slept with Gary, man. So
Gary, GT car, yeah.
Gary's a 5. But they're like, well, Gary's rich though. I was like, I don't care. Gary's a 5. So now she's not a 10 anymore. Now she's like an 8. So does that happen to this GT? Do they go from 10 to like 8 because of this, or there's no chink in the armor if this thing comes out? Is this just another, oh geez, everybody hot boys it, everybody gets a line, everybody wants to buy one, and now it's the new flex, you know, it's the SUV special flex. I got a GT3 RS and I've got a Cayenne Coupe GT, bro, and they're both PTS matching and all that other jazz that goes along with it. Like, delivered on the same day, bro. Delivered on the same day. Selling Doge. What's up?
Do you think they're going to do a Trans-Siberian version of this? Do you think that's what this is kind of getting at?
No, because I think they would just do it.
Okay. Nope.
Because that's how they usually do things. They do it, and then they sell it afterwards. They don't sell it before they race it. I don't think it'll be that at all. And then going back to, like, if you're taking this big hunk of meat or whatever this is, and you're trying to make it, send it down the track to do lap times or whatever, and maybe I'm looking at this all wrong, because we're not getting a lot of info, and I'm just filling in the gaps with what I think this is supposed to be based off the other GT models. What you just said made me think about this. They could be flipping it on the head. Maybe this could be their Raptor.
Okay.
Instead of being low and hunkered down and all this other stuff, maybe this is their beefcake. Maybe this is the one that comes on all terrains, and it's a little bit beefier and has like all this articulating suspension. Yeah, and it has the LED floodlights, and it turns all this. But that's their Raptor GT department of this.
Which probably isn't far from it. If they're willing to support the Gen 1 Cayennes with all the new rally bits or Overlander bits, then
maybe this is what this is going to be. I could see that way more than some track version, and with all of the Safari hype that's happening and all of the interest, that makes a lot more sense. And again, guys, we're just talking to talk. We don't know any information, but if you guys are paying attention to the market, what we just said, that makes a lot more sense.
And here's another reason. Because Walter Roll was driving it.
Yes.
So there's another...
And he's a rally driver.
Another rally. I mean, he drives other things, but yeah.
Yeah, but he's known for his rally stuff. So that actually... If you use him the way he's supposed to be used...
Yep.
So maybe that's part of their spy stuff. They're making you think this thing's going to live on the track, and then it shows up, and you're like, that's a Raptor Cayenne, basically.
Yep.
So basically, anybody who used to want to have a Raptor is going to want this thing, and that's going to be a whole nother market. And maybe they blow up into the Baja.
So what do you think? 700 horsepower, 800?
It'll probably be 700, I bet. They're already doing that. It's not like a number that they can't achieve. That's already happening. Just twin turbo V8. I think it'll be interesting if they do that, though. There'll be the all-terrain. It'll be lifted. It'll be the first time they ever sold anything like that. So they're into doing firsts. So
here we go.
It would be pretty rad, and I think people would line the hell up for this thing if it was that, as opposed to the other thing. Yeah. I am excited. I like off-road stuff. I think it's pretty rad. Yes, I know overlanding's trendy, but the sales don't lie, right? Raptors sell out. That T-Rex thing that Dodge makes sells out. Those things are all 100,000 plus. So Porsche's probably, they're not stupid. They're looking at the market, and they're saying people are buying domesticated trucks that they're never going to go Baja with, but it's a flex because we know a lot of people live in urban settings that have them, and they tow their Porsche somewhere. And not that that's a bad thing, but that now maybe they're going to tow their GT3 RS somewhere with this Cayenne Coupe GT Raptor Flex or whatever this thing's going to be called. I think it'd be smart to do that, and that maybe checks their Safari box so they don't have to Safari a 911, or maybe they're going to have that line.
Maybe it's a whole line.
Yeah, I was going to say run right next to each other. Maybe part of that Cross Turismo where it's got that little bit of lifted look, off-road look. Now they're going to make a 911, 992 Safari, and they're going to make this coupe. That's going to be a Safari style, the Cayenne Coupe, and it's going to be maybe a trifecta of them, and that would be cool too. Like I said, they're not stupid. They see what the market's doing. They see that people are selling out like crazy on these things, and everybody can't get enough of this overlanding stuff. And a lot more people seem to be using these vehicles, going camping, going hiking, taking these things places, biking, all these places with all these cars. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to compete with them, but it's nice to be able to go to those places in comfort and luxury and with power, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and then they close with some of the stuff. We didn't get any dates, but there's talks of a Rennsport-esque event.
Yep.
And I use Rennsport in quotations, with air quotations.
Yep. We heard about it before.
It's not being called that, but we're starting to put the players together that are attending and the puzzle pieces together of where this is happening and who's attending and who they're hiring to bring there. And it's starting to look like one of those things.
It is. Well, we got, the funny part is we got a little inside info about it, and we're like, this doesn't make any sense. Why? I was like, we
that was months ago,
yeah,
too.
It was months ago. We
like, kind of brushed it off.
We did.
We're like, what is that? What is he talking about? Because we got a personal message on it, and we're like, from Porsche Inside.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you guys should be looking into this. And we're like, why the hell would we go there?
Makes no sense. But now it makes some sense because that's
3 months later.
Big spot.
Yeah, 3 months later, after a little bit more info has come our way, a little bit more stuff has come our way. I don't want to leak locations or dates yet because we don't know for sure yet. So I don't want to
100%.
give everybody listening some bad info on it. Just stay tuned. As soon as we know, we'll definitely let you guys know. But there's talks of something like that happening this year. When, we're not sure. Where, we're not sure. And in addition to that, at this event too, there's a lot of mongering going around about Luftgekühlt also happening this year.
Yep.
Where, we don't know. Location, we don't know yet. However, the talk was probably this year. So stay tuned on that too.
Probably in the fall of this year.
Yeah, I mean, by process of elimination, we're in June essentially. So obviously it hasn't happened yet. So, and it's probably not happening next month. So you can start to put the pieces together of when this may happen. So maybe start to stay available.
Yep.
You know, who knows when it's going to happen. And it may not happen either. There's that possibility as well. But there was
seen the pumpkin spice lattes floating around.
But let's just put it this way. We talked to a lot of big players at this event that are involved with both of these events, and there was a lot of talk around both of those events occurring this year. So back to what I was saying earlier, adding things to the calendar, scheduling nightmare stuff. I'm sure we're going to be running back-to-back. It was like, oh, yeah, we had our rally, got a week off. Oh, hey, I'm at Target. Oh, hey, guess what? Oh, now this is happening. Oh, that's happening. So good problems to have. But that's what happens when you run a condensed schedule, right? Because we were still kind of on hold for the spring. So now everybody wants to get it in still. And the calendar is running out of days. Yep. So what ends up happening is you cram all this crap together. So hopefully you can make it out to one of these events, if not both. Like I said, more to follow once we know. Definitely not trying to spread rumors, but from sources that are important, we have heard conversation of those things potentially. I'm using potentially. Yep. I'm not saying they are happening. Potentially happening this year.
Maybe could be.
Yeah.
Might.
Well, just stay ready because we don't even know. So we're just staying ready, and that's all you can do is
we're just booking random Airbnbs and places and hoping for the best.
Every major city basically that we can think of, we're just getting on every day. Just do what we're doing.
Just covering the back.
Again, why we need like an intern to like go cancel all of those Airbnbs. So he or she will just be busy the entire time canceling and booking Airbnbs.
What do you do? I just book Airbnbs across the country
so
the entire year.
Travel agent.
Pretty much.
So you're a PCar Talk travel agent. Awesome. But I don't have anything else for our listeners. Do you have anything else for them?
I do not.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. We love you guys. We will talk to you guys soon.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCar Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCar Talk or online at PCarTalk.com.